Hey everyone, welcome to Friday Night Live at 4:05 with Tori Humphreys. I'm a professional life coach here to help creatives move from abstract ideas to concrete realities. Today, our focus will be on how to stop overthinking it. We have so many things that are rolling around in our heads, and though it may not have anything to do with our creative projects, it definitely affects us. And this was definitely me. I found myself here 2 weeks ago where I was just overthinking everything pertaining mostly to my business, my coaching business. I had a plethora of assignments that were on my mind and I couldn't sleep. Anxiety kept me up. My heart was racing. I was having difficulty concentrating. And some of these thoughts were, what if I'm rejected? I don't have enough experience. Everything has to be perfect. And so with these thoughts that were running in my mind, I was trying to prevent the rejection from other people. And I worked with these thoughts. It led to me overworking, doing way more. And I wasn't focused. I found myself being extremely indecisive. I felt exhausted, distracted, overwhelmed, and I ended up being more reactive than responsive. So if I saw anything that could help me be better in my business, instead of focusing and being present on where I was, I found myself being like, okay, this is something else that can help me do my business so it can be more perfect and more beautiful, more whatever. And it was extremely overwhelming. And so I realized that most of my time and energy was spent on things that weren't within the realm of control. Instead of recognizing the fears and addressing them head on, I tried to gain more control, and it only led to me feeling more unsettled. And it was because I was afraid of accepting what I couldn't control. I'm sure you all have been there too, where you may overthink things to prevent something from happening. If I'm not thinking about this, then what is going to happen? And fears that keep us from really seeing what is and what isn't in our control. And so there was one day I found myself alone, by myself, my husband and kids outside of our apartment. Where they were, didn't know, didn't want to know. And it was glorious. It was such a great time just to sit and really just observe all of the thoughts that were just kept running, partly because I was keeping so busy as well. And I had this moment in time where I could just stop and recognize the thoughts and the emotions. And it was at this time that God was showing me, Tori, most of the things that you're overthinking are things that are outside of your control. Sit with that for a moment. What if our overthinking has to do with us trying to constantly control things that we can't? So all of a sudden, my fears just surfaced, and I couldn't hide behind my lack of control, because that's what it was. Even though I was trying to control so much, he showed me the things that I couldn't control. I couldn't control how people responded to my business. I couldn't control people saying whether or not they wanted to sign up to be a client of mine. Those are things that I had no control over. And so it hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm like, and so all of the fears that I was trying to avoid, they just surfaced. And I felt exposed. But it was at this point where I had to acknowledge what was in my control and what wasn't. And when I did that, I realized I was giving up control over the things that were in my power while attempting to control the uncontrollable. So though it did bring up a lot of fears, I also was comforted because what was in my power, I was giving up. And that is something that I've been starting to change and been wanting to change. I had to recognize that my obsessive thoughts were trying to avoid the possibility of me being rejected. And I worked overtime to stop my fears from coming true. So here's my application point for you all. When you find yourself in a rabbit trail of your thoughts, what is it that you're trying to avoid? What fears keep your mind running all day and all night long? I encourage you to do the following. 1, pause and reflect on your thoughts. What do you spend the majority of the time, the day, thinking about? Observe the thoughts that you have. 2, determine what is in your control and what is not in your control. For the things that are outside of your control, ask yourself, what does being out of control mean to me? And how does it affect me? And part 2 of that is, how can I accept what isn't in my control? For the things that are in your control, ask yourself, where have I given up my power to control? And why? And how do I want to take it back? And who will hold me accountable? And last but not least, create a to-do list. What is a to-do list? It's definitely not a to-do list. To-do list reflects all of the things that you have done. So you can celebrate your victories, the things that you've done that are typically overseen because you're focusing on the things that you haven't done. And acknowledge those things, recognize them. It will help just calm some of those thoughts down. It'll change those thoughts to be more thoughts of gratitude, where you're thankful for the things that you have already done. So that's all that I have for you today. Thanks for watching Friday Night Live at 4:05 with Tori Humphries. If you're ready to step into your dreams but need additional help, let's create a plan together. Set up a time with me to talk. You can either email me or message me. I'd love to chat. And last but not least, remember your worth isn't measured by likes, comments, or Zelle payments. Your value is immeasurable, regardless of what lies ahead of you. Bye.